Moderna, a lot of people have heard this name of this company now, is partnered with the National Institutes of Health, and they announced some positive early results from their vaccine trials this week. You said that's very encouraging. It's early. It's just 8 patients where they saw these neutralizing antibodies, these special antibodies. It does seem very early. What specifically encourages you about this, Dr. Fauci?
Yeah, well, Sanjay, as you well know, when you're developing a vaccine, there's always landmines and traps along the way to get in the way of the successful completion of developing a safe and effective vaccine. One of the first steps that's important is a phase 1 trial where you give it to a limited number of people. In this case, we gave it to 45 people, 3 separate doses. The question is, was it immediately safe? Clearly it was. But importantly, did it induce the kind of response that you would predict would be protective against the virus? And that's what's called neutralizing antibodies. When you get a vaccination, you're going to get antibodies. Some of them are called binding antibodies, where if this were the virus, it binds to this part, but this is the action part of the virus that binds to a receptor. So if it just binds here, it's almost an irrelevant antibody. Neutralizing antibodies bind to the business end of the virus and block its ability to infect. So what we saw, even though there was only 8 individuals, we saw neutralizing antibodies at a reasonable dose of the vaccine, and the titers were high enough to get us to believe that if we attain that in more people, in a large number of people, you could predict that that vaccine would be protective. So although the numbers were limited, it was really quite good news because it reached and went over an important hurdle in the development of vaccines. That's the reason why I'm cautiously optimistic about it.
And one thing that's worth pointing out, I was doing some reporting on this week, but you worked on HIV for decades. Obviously, there's no vaccine for HIV yet. But my understanding is in all those trials, what you just described with those types of neutralizing antibodies, they never achieved that level with HIV vaccine trials in several decades. Is that true?
That is absolutely correct. I mean, I've been working with my colleagues in trying to develop a vaccine for HIV, for, as you said correctly, for decades. The body doesn't like to make broadly neutralizing antibodies against HIV, the kind of antibodies that would truly prevent you from being infected. With this coronavirus, the body readily makes it. And the reason for that is that with natural infection, the body has a very adequate response. And that's the reason why such a large proportion of people spontaneously recover from the coronavirus infection and really do quite well. Obviously, a certain subset get very sick. Many of them die, but that's a relatively small percentage. Most of the people mount that good response that's a neutralizing antibody. And that's exactly what the patients, not the patients, the normal volunteers, did in this phase 1 study. And that's the reason why, although we're always cautious, it's really a good sign.